Hey, what's up y'all? Breaking has finally been 100% confirmed to the 2024 Paris Olympics, and because of that, I decided to dress up in my most Olympic looking gear from head to toe. Look at this. Aw yeah. I'm Dyzee, a 12-time
13-time world champion,
a Threadz pioneer, a global b-boy activist, and you're watching the Dyzee Diaries b-boy vlog! Alright, so what's up everybody? Welcome back to my vlog. And today I'm going to be talking about breaking going to the 2024 Paris Olympics and what that really means. You know, a lot of people are talking about it and they're going all over the place. Half the b-boy community is bringing up old arguments like b-boying's an art form, it's not a sport. How can it go to the Olympics? The other half are saying, yeah, breaking should go to the Olympics, but if it does, what's going to happen? And then you have non-breakers who never seen breaking since the 80s and they're going online saying, what? Breaking going to the Olympics? It's gonna ruin the Olympics. Breaking is not good enough to be considered a sport. Like, okay, if you're a b-boy or b-girl, this vlog is for you. If you are not a b-boy and you want to kind of understand our culture, this might be kind of flying over your head. And if you're a non-b-boy or b-girl and you think that breaking's not good enough to be an Olympic sport, well, you can just suck it. So B-Girl Logistics, she recently put out a post just asking for people. She tagged me and a whole bunch of other influential b-boys in the scene to ask us to speak out and tell our concerns. Like, what is our biggest concerns or worries about breaking going to the Olympics? And for me, everybody knows that I've always been pushing breaking going to the Olympics since 2010. I foresaw since back then that breaking would eventually go to the Olympics. I just didn't know it was going to be this soon. So first, let me address the biggest concern. Okay, for the people out there that think that it's gonna completely change breaking, I wanna explain what I would say is probably a really bad case scenario. Breaking goes to the Olympics, it's done really poorly, really crappy, doesn't get a lot of exposure, and it just becomes like another event that goes on, except that it has the 5 rings behind it. It fails, they drop breaking from the Olympics, and there's the few people that never watch breaking, that aren't part of the millions of views that breaking gets today, say, see, I told you that breaking doesn't belong in the Olympics. And then we just go back to our lives and nothing changes. Nothing changes whatsoever. We go back to our big events that still gather millions of views and we still battle in the streets and nothing changes at all. And that is not even the worst case scenario. Actually, there's a worser case scenario. Breaking goes to the Olympics. It doesn't really do good. It's still kind of a disaster, but the people watching it, the spotlight makes breaking famous. People go, wow, I've never seen anything like that in my life. They see what we see and they see the amazingness. And what happens is that ushers in another mainstream media explosion, but this time globally. Just like it did back in the 80s. When breaking came out in the 80s, it exploded and went worldwide. There was a frenzy, everybody did it. This can happen again. Now, you don't believe me? It happened again in the mid-2000s in Korea. Everybody remembers, you can go to Korea, you can see breaking on TV, there were battles, big money, b-boys were driving nice cars, like it was like, every b-boy had their own studio. It was the first place that it was like that. Breaking can explode like this around the world. It gets really big, and that's gonna seem great, but the same thing that happened in the 80s, it died. The same thing that happened in mid-2000s in Korea, it died. And when it dies, it becomes worse off than it was before. Why? Because when anything becomes part of popular culture, mainstream culture, if it doesn't have a solid base to survive, when the investment and funding dries up, it tends to crash right back down. People say, oh yeah, we saw breaking. That was like a fun little thing that they did. And then people don't want to see breaking anymore. Okay? They don't want to see it and it becomes worse for us, okay? This can actually happen, and it happened already twice. In the 80s, mid-2000s in Korea. Now, the best case scenario that could actually happen is breaking goes to the Olympics, it is done amazing, it becomes an official Olympic sport and continues going on for generations, and it brings a huge explosion into the scene, money comes in, and we build a perfect infrastructure like the NBA or the UFC or skateboarding, or we build something like the FIFA of breaking around the world, where there are way more professional breakers everywhere representing their cities and making money and sponsorship deals. Like if we can build something like that through the explosion of breaking through the Olympics, that would be awesome. Okay, that's the best case scenario. And with that said, even though breaking gets big, goes to the Olympics, but it's not represented great, so breaking gets dropped. But the media explosion comes into breaking, and we use that explosion to build the industry. So we are not dependent on the Olympics, okay? Olympics isn't the be-all, end-all. It's the beginning. But for us, we need to choose whether it's gonna be the beginning of the end or the beginning of a new era. All these little arguments, they're not the most pressing issue at the moment. It's about what are we going to do now. People are gonna ask me, what is that? Get your business in order. We need more entrepreneurs in the b-boy culture. So if you're opening up studios, if you're gonna have a school, I know right now because of COVID-19, a lot of schools have closed down. But once the economy opens back up, there's gonna be a lot of really cheap rental places. It might be a good time to pick up right there. Also, start getting into our own products. Okay, as you know, we created the first b-boy sneaker. That's what I'm getting into, and my company is prepared to offer an endorsement deal to anybody who is going to be an official National Olympic b-boy, b-girl athlete. And this is for the long run too, something that can change your life, gift your family in the future. Everybody else in the b-boy community, start getting into business. Start understanding what business is about. We can't make the same mistakes that we did in the 80s or in the mid-2000s in Korea. All I can say is that if we continue this same method of how we're doing now with these one-off tournaments, it's gonna fail, okay? It already failed in Korea. They had huge stage events and tournaments, exactly what we have now, and it exploded in Korea, and that wasn't enough to sustain breaking. So we have to create something like an official league. Whether you take it in the business level, you take it on the skills level, you take it on the artistic level, there's space for everyone, and we gotta be united behind it. And we gotta stop fighting over the pieces of the pie. We have to start working with each other. So for example, if there's a specific movement or business or brand that you really like that's in the b-boy culture, and you think that this brand can get bigger, contact people, reach out to everybody, say, hey, I like what you're doing with this, is there a way that I can get involved? There's something that you're doing, you have a school, I like the way that you run your school, is there a way we can bring your school over here? Start trying to reach out and see what it costs and what it takes, and start figuring out problem solving about business. Okay, how much is it gonna cost for me to franchise your idea? How much is it gonna cost for me to do this? And create business plans. It's better that we work together and we compete against every other industry. That they're the real competition out there. Like skateboarding industry, we have to compete with them. We have to compete with the NBA. We have to compete with FIFA. We have to compete with so many other things. But breaking is, I believe, in my heart, is the illest thing ever. In 2006, when I became a believer, I felt the Spirit show me that this is what's gonna happen, and that's why I've been pushing this every day. I believe that this is my purpose. I believe that it's our destiny, and I'm looking forward to seeing where we're gonna go. Anyways, I wanna thank all my Patreons for supporting me all this time. Everybody who's following me, I thank you guys too. If you think that this is an important message, please like, subscribe, and share this with whoever you can. And yeah, let's all go together. We're all in this journey together. So let's stay positive and see you at the 2024 Paris Olympics. Let's enjoy the ride together.